Hello everyone, I'm Mini Maestro, and today's video is what if Asta was the reincarnation of Sun Wukong? And a 100th video special! Yes, this is my 100th video, yay, celebrate! Now, this what if is partially inspired by God of High School, but mostly by Journey to the West, the mammoth piece of literature that Sun Wukong originally from. Also, I will be making a lot more Asta videos. Why? Well, there's actually a criminally small amount of black clover what ifs. Either way, let's get into it. As his shapeshifting abilities were not based upon mana, he began to take all of the light spears and bang on the magic shell that was trapping them. It would not break. Then he realized that not only were the spears of light piercing his skin, but he was not healing. What? He thought to himself. Human magic isn't supposed to even harm me, and why aren't I healing? Then he fell and reverted back to his base form. He began to avoid light spears, and tried to get as many elves out of the way as he could. He looked to the humans on the mountain. He saw something above them. A demon? No, this was something else. In his distraction, he was hit by a light spear through the heart and fell unconscious. He woke up. No, he was dead. Around him, he saw many elves being taken by emissaries of the underworld, but they were unable to touch him. I'm dead? How am I dead? I'm immortal 5 times over! I can't be dead! He looked around. At least these guys can't take me to the underworld. 500 years later, 2 babies were placed outside a church. One began to cry, waking up the other, resulting in them crying as well. The father of the church heard the cries and brought them in. He looked at them after finally calming them down. Are they brothers? Perhaps twins? No, they look nothing alike. He looked at the black-haired infant and saw his name written on the pajamas. You know. He turned to the white-haired baby. And this one is... He was interrupted by a kick to the face, which knocked him down. Dang, he's pretty strong. He stood back up. He seems to have a lot of spunk. He saw the child's eyes, which were red. What an odd eye color. He then saw the name on the red-eyed child's pajamas. Asta. Well, Asta, you know, I guess I'm taking care of you. The father raises Asta and Yuno. Asta doesn't crush on Sister Lily in this version of events because, well, from what I've seen, that's pretty standard for Black Clover what-ifs. Asta is also not an idiot, but definitely more impulsive. He's also incredibly strong, even for an adult. He doesn't really train because he doesn't really need to, but he still drinks the morongo juice. Also, something slightly different in the overall lore. Now, not only are nobles and even more so royals more talented in magic, having more mana, but they also have longer lifespans. And in case you haven't figured it out, the Swallowtail also absorbed Sun Wukong's immortality. You see, Sun Wukong's second method of immortality is literally scribbling his name out of the Book of Mortals, removing him from the underworld's jurisdiction, which is why he was able to reincarnate in a different way than the elves or natural reincarnation. So yeah, that's my explanation for how Sun Wukong died. I mean, I had to come up with something that made sense because of the fact that he's immortal times 5. Anyway, Asta still decides he's going to be the Wizard King, partially to prove everyone who said he couldn't do it wrong. Be honest, that's totally why he would do it in this version of events. One day, the father of the church sends Yuno out to deliver a letter to the chief of a neighboring village to help with food. After it takes a while for Yuno to get back, Asta goes to look for him. The drunkard is attacking Yuno when he hears Asta yell, "Stop! That's Yuno's!" Holy crap, I gotta get a better voice for Asta. Asta punches the drunkard across the face, knocking him out. He grabbed Yuno's pendant and gave it to him. Then, they agree that one of them will become the Wizard King. Years later, Asta and Yuno are heading to the Grimoire Tower as usual. Yuno gets his 4-leaf grimoire, and Asta still does not get a grimoire. Mine's not coming? Everyone turned to Asta. Oh, try again next year? Everyone began to laugh. Asta ran out of the Grimoire Tower into the Demon Skull. For some reason, something about the skull felt familiar to him, so he went there often. He was punching a tree in frustration. It doesn't matter what they think. I'll still become the Wizard King. I'll prove them wrong. He starts to walk back to the church when he sees the Chain Mage attacking Yuno after taking his grimoire. Stop! That's Yuno's! Yeah, I gotta get a better Asta voice. Asta runs up, appearing over the wall and landing in front of the Chain Mage. Asta, run! You think I'm running from a disgraced loser like him? Asta rushes the Chain Mage, running past him, getting ready to punch him in the back. The chains try to stop him, but all they do is soften the blow on the Chain Mage as they shatter. The Chain Mage is hit in the wall, but Asta is caught by surprise from the back. Dance of the pitiless viper. Asta is pinned to the wall. Asta tries to get back up. Not yet. I'm going to be the Wizard King! As a chain shoots through Asta's stomach. You, the Wizard King? My chains can tell how much magical power someone has. You have no mana whatsoever. What? That's right. You must have been born this way. No wonder you didn't get a grimoire. You're worthless. I have no magic? Asta begins to cry. He's not worthless. He's my rival. Asta looks up. He grabs the Chain Mage's leg. Sorry for looking so pathetic in front of you, Yuno. Asta breaks the Chain Mage's leg and resulting in him stumbling back. I'm gonna kick this guy's butt. He grabs the chain, piercing his body, and then pulls apart, breaking it. Then, a 5-leaf clover presents itself to him. A grimoire? The grimoire opens, and a large sword comes out. He takes hold of the sword and lifts it effortlessly. Chain Mage sends dozens of chains at him, which he slashes with ease. He dashes for the Chain Mage. Even without magic, I'll become the greatest Wizard King to ever live! He swings at the Chain Mage, slamming him into the wall. Looks like my insane strength came in handy. Asta turned. Do you remember our promise? Asta smiled. What? You seriously didn't think I forgot, did you? Asta handed Yuno his grimoire. Of course not. Yuno walks forward past Asta. You're the one who gave me hope. Even if you're poor, or an orphan, or even us, we can become greater than anyone else in this world. And to prove it. Asta turned, and the two put their fists together. To prove everyone else wrong. The two boys then said in unison, Let's see who can become the Wizard King! Later, Asta was in the forest trying to get a hang of his sword when he meets Frenzel. Frenzel agrees to train Asta, and Asta saves him from the diamond mages that came to take him back into custody. I'm skipping over this part because I really don't know how to do it. I'm understanding. At first I was frustrated when I first skipped over this part, but now I realize that it's, for some reason, really hard to do. The time comes for the travels to the Magic Knight's entrance exam. Before they leave, Nash approaches Asta. Asta, if you do become a Magic Knight, if you do prove everyone else wrong, then I'll believe anything is possible, and then I'll become a Magic Knight too! Asta looked at Nash and put his hand on his head. Then prepare to believe in the impossible. Asta and Yuno then left for the Magic Knight's entrance exam. When traveling through the desert, Asta gets thirsty and takes a drink of water. What, no more morongo juice? Ditched it after I found out I don't have magic. Seemed kinda pointless. Besides, it tasted terrible. After they get to the entrance exam, no birds are around Yuno, but Asta is swarmed by them. Get off me! He yelled. It scared most of them away, but one continued to sit on his head. He then bumps into Yami, who grabs his head like cannon. This time, he recognizes Yami as a captain. Watch where you're going, kid. Asta grabs Yami's arm and begins to squeeze. What's with this kid? Yami thinks. He's actually hurting my arm and I can't sense any mana from him. Not to mention his ki feels more like a monkey than a human. Finral intervenes and reminds Yami to get to the captain's seat. Seke approaches Asta pretending to be supportive, but this time Asta knows something else but still plays along. Then Captain Vengeance appears and gives everyone a broom. Like Cannon, Asta can't fly, but Yami notices something odd. He looks at Asta's feet when he's trying to fly and sees some small golden clouds swirling around them. What is with this kid? Things go in canon for the projectile and creation exams and pretty much everything except the combat portion. Seke offers to fight Asta when no one wants to. When they stand in the middle of the arena before the fight, Seke whispers into Asta's ear. I picked you because you'd be an easy fight, so just thrash around a bit before I beat you to make me look good. Thanks for getting me into a squad. Asta is angry, but smiles. Sure thing. I'll thrash around a bit. They walk to the edges, and the fight begins. Seke activates his ball spell thing, and Asta speaks. You know, I knew you were up to something. Acting supportive for someone super weak, looking to make yourself look good, then beating them in a landslide to look strong. Problem is, Asta pulls out his sword. You picked the wrong person. Asta charged and swung at the side incredibly fast, breaking the ball and launching Seke out of the arena, all in about a quarter of a second. You wanted me to thrash a bit? Looks like it was too much for you. Then came for the selection. Like Cannon, Yuno gets every captain's hand and goes with the Golden Dawns. Then Asta comes up. He looks up. He got 3 hands. The Golden Dawn, the Praying Mantises, and the Black Bolts. People are stunned. They thought it made sense for Yuno to get into the Golden Dawn, but Asta did terribly. Why did they want him? Asta looked at Yami, then Jack, then finally Vengeance. He noticed something odd about Vengeance. He then flashed back to something that happened on his way back to the church after the chain mage. He looked down. He could see something. Something almost floating around his grimoire. He didn't say anything about it, but in the present, he saw something similar around Captain Vengeance. But only enough to have been around something like it. But what was there was a lot worse. He was not going with the Golden Dawn. He looked back to Jack and Yami. I choose the Black Bulls! Everyone is now even more surprised. Yami begins laughing. I actually got him! Ha! Did you see that, Vengeance? He chose me! Fagolion stood, being confused and wanting an explanation. Would you please explain your choice? Asta quickly thought of a lie as to why he didn't choose the Golden Dawn. I didn't want to go into the Golden Dawn because the one who went before me is my rival. I can't be in the same squad as my rival. After that, I just went for who looked stronger. Yami snickers as Jack scoffs. Later, Yami takes Asta to the Black Bull's hideout. Asta opens the door to a fireball heading right towards his face. He quickly pulls out the Demon Slayer sword and slashes it. Asta then sees absolute chaos inside the Black Bull's base. Yami slammed the wall. Stop breaking everything! The wall then collapses. We have a new member. Everyone then introduced themselves to Asta. Magma then has Asta start the baptism. He does better than canon and even breaks the boulder a bit. Then comes the fight. Magna pulls a flaming bat out of his grimoire. Alright, let's see how you handle this! A fireball appeared in Magma's hand and began... Oh, whoops, skipped ahead a bit. He begins to swing, launching a barrage of fireballs. Asta was dodging, but he saw he was starting to fall behind. He pulled out the Demon Slayer sword and started slashing fireballs that got close. Magna put his bat away. Alright, let's see how you handle this! A fireball appeared in Magma's hand and began to grow. Exploding fireball! Magma threw the fireball. Asta hit the fireball with the flat of his blade, launching it back at Magma, surprising him. Magma dispels the fireball before it hits him. He looks at Asta and smiles. That was awesome! Everyone then praises Asta and he earns his robe. All while a silver-haired girl overlooks the commotion. Asta is shown to his room. When he sees what a mess it is, he's kind of annoyed. I'm going to need to clean this up myself, aren't I? Yup. Oh well, I'll get to it in the morning. Asta closes the door and plops onto the bed and falls asleep. In the morning, Asta leaves his room to find a pillar in front of his door. Good morning, Asta. Oh, Magna, why is there a pillar in front of my room? It wasn't there last night. The base shifts around a lot. No clue why. Magna gives Asta the tour and they come across Noel. So, I'm not the only new member. Nice to meet you. Asta smiles with his hands on his neck. Noel looks at Asta. How dare you address me so casually, commoner? Asta is caught off guard. What? I'm Noel Silva, royalty. That doesn't give you an excuse to treat me as less than you. We're both new, we're both on the same level. Noel creates a water bubble and Asta pulls out his sword in reaction. Noel fires off the water bubble, which starts heading towards Magna. Asta dispels it. Attacking someone from outside the argument? What's wrong with you? Noel takes off her robe and throws it to the ground. I'm quitting the Black Bulls. Noelle walks off. What's wrong with her? No clue. Come on, there's still more of the base. Asta then does the chores he's asked to. This time, when he meets the magic beasts, they're almost afraid of him. After he finishes his chores, Asta is wandering around outside of the base when he hears something. He goes to investigate and sees Noelle firing water bubbles at a target and missing every time. So that's it, he thought. She didn't attack Magna on purpose. She missed me. Asta shifted his weight and stepped on a twig by accident. Noelle turns and sees Asta. After a moment, water magic goes berserk around her. Asta runs back to the base to find the rest of the members outside. What the heck is that, kid? Ran into Noelle. She noticed me and her magic went berserk. Well, how are you gonna fix it? Asta looks at the large mass of water magic, then turns back. I need you to throw me. Yami smiled. I'm really starting to like you, kid. Asta is standing in Yami's hands. Finral, be ready to catch me and Noelle. Right. Asta is thrown by Yami, heading straight towards the massive water bubble. Asta takes out the Demon Slayer sword and slashes. He puts the sword back in his grimoire and catches Noelle. And they fall into a portal of Finral's creation. Asta puts Noelle on the ground and looks at her. Having a lack of control is no excuse for acting the way you did. Noelle winced. I don't know what you must have gone through being a royal with so little control, but it must have been horrible. Noelle looked surprised. You're incredibly powerful. You just need to learn control. Once you have that down, I imagine you'll be unstoppable. Asta smiles. The Black Bulls then told Noelle how amazed they were with how powerful she was, and Vanessa offered to help her with control. The next day, Yami and Magna come back naked. Asta and Noelle are then given their first mission. Boar hunting. So, I hope you enjoyed. This was part 1 of What If Asta Was the Reincarnation of Sun Wukong. 5 likes for part 2. Expect more Asta what ifs. And until next time, Mabu hi, Mabu bye.